improvement of Austin Reeves throughout the year, with the improvement of Rui Hachimura, if those guys make another jump, Anthony Davis stays healthy, LeBron's going to be ready. You don't think that man, we just watched the Miami Heat with 44 wins, double play-in, get all the way to the NBA Finals, and they're tied with Denver 1-1. Why not nowadays? Why not the Los Angeles Lakers? Why not like 10 teams in the NBA now?
I hear you, but I was talking to Dane about this today, about the Miami Heat, the run they're making.
Yep.
Say the Miami Heat win the championship. How many people think will pick them to be the favorites to win next year?
They might not pick them out of the top 5.
Exactly. So this is just an incredible run at their own. It's not necessarily that this team is like, you feel like it's the best team over anybody in the association. But with that being said, I think LeBron just wants, D'Angelo Russell, what are they going to do with him? He was a disappointment.
And so in the playoffs, he was
disappointment.
Yeah.
And, Jared Vanderbilt, he helped, but he was a disappointment in that Denver series. He really couldn't play them. And so there's just a lot of holes, and they just don't have a team.
Extra channels let you discover new music and enjoy even more variety from every decade and music style you love. Plus, you can watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows with SiriusXM Video. And you can do it all along with listening in your car as part of our music and entertainment plan. Right now, we're offering SiriusXM subscription plans for as low as $6 a month, plus fees and taxes. Call 844-711-8800 to find out more about these amazing offers.
Be the first to hear it when Dave Matthews performs his brand new songs live and acoustic. And experience a stripped-down take on some old favorites. Dave Matthews.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
In an intimate concert for DMB radio listeners from Irving Plaza in New York City tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on his exclusive SiriusXM channel, Dave Matthews Band Radio, Channel 30.
Just because you leave town doesn't mean you should go without your commercial-free music, play-by-play from your favorite teams, or the programs, entertainment, or news you listen to every morning. Get SiriusXM and get the radio you love coast to coast. Call 844-711-8800 or go to SiriusXM.com to activate your radio now.
Conversation with Cardinal Dolan.
The life of the church goes on as it always does and will go on till Gabriel blows his trumpet, because Jesus assured us that the gates of hell shall not prevail against his church. Are there setbacks? Are there terrible trials, turmoil, and trauma? Yep. But we grow from that, and that's in our weakness and our pain is when we trust in God.
Conversation with Cardinal Dolan. Tuesdays at 2 p.m. East, SiriusXM 129.
To hear the Catholic channel, activate your radio now. Call 844-711-8800 or go to SiriusXM.com/go to sign up quickly.
SiriusXM Video lets you watch some of your favorite SiriusXM shows on the SXM app. Groundbreaking interviews, amazing in-show moments, behind-the-scenes footage, live performances, all come to life in the way you only imagined before. Plus, you can create your own personalized Pandora station based on the artists you love. And hear over 100 extra channels filled with ad-free music for every mood or occasion. Get your first 6 months of our Platinum plan for only $8.33 per month, plus fees and taxes. Just call 844-711-8800 to take advantage of this amazing offer.
Stanley Cup Final is on SiriusXM. Who will bring home their first cup? The Florida Panthers return to the final after more than a quarter century. Vegas Golden Knights return for the second time in their 6-year history.
Whoa, bouncing car! And a great save by Hill and Jimmy Rotten.
Hear the home and away broadcast of every game on SiriusXM and the SXM app. And talk about the quest for the cup on NHL Network Radio, Channel 91.
From sling, the collide of football pads, the squeak of shoes on a basketball court, the crack of the bat on a home run, the slice of skates cutting across the ice. But what about this one? That's the sound of all the sports you love, all at once. Starting at $40 a month. Experience it all live with Sling.
The biggest names in the NBA. Stop by the starting lineup.
We're joined now by Heat guard Duncan Robinson.
The regular season was definitely challenging. How I think I stayed ready was relying on other guys. I needed to play, so I was playing a lot of one-on-one, 2-on-2, 3-on-3. They really helped me stay sharp and just be ready when the moment was called.
Catch the starting lineup weekdays from 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern. Only on SiriusXM NBA Radio, Channel 86, and the SXM app.
We've been talking about this almost every day now, but as we get into a game 4 before Tyler could be available, is that too late to be fair to him and to this team with how you've been playing to reincorporate him into everything?
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but we're still, day to day. I don't have another update for you. He's scheduled to have another full contact workout tomorrow. He has not been cleared yet. So until he's been cleared, a lot of this stuff is really just hypothetical. To be a sprint, you have to have a next play speed mentality for sure. Because if you're late or you glitch for a second, Jokic is such a great defensive rebounder. If he gets anywhere from 12 to 15 to 18 rebounds, how many of those 10 will be bust outs? So it's a little bit different than some of the transition stuff we've been dealing with in previous series. But the common denominator is, trying to take away, some easy ones, relief ones. And we've had some practice in playing against speed teams in the previous series.
By Fanatics, Nike, and all the latest styles for every NBA team. Plus, one-of-a-kind products and authentic collectibles. Shop now and get today's special offer. NBAstore.com. A Fanatics experience.
Rondo Deportes, Bonjour, Vidi Vidi Vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlie. Big C Sports, and this is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe. According to me, and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood on a beautiful June the 7th, 2023. Have the NBA Finals getting ready for a tip-off, and actually they should be right about tipping off just a few minutes ago. Also got some more talk on the LIV, the PGA, the 9/11, and the Masters, what it all means when it comes to can't we all just get along? Blood money versus hush money. People were going to court to sue, and now money won out over decency and blood and all that jazz. What's blood got to do with it? What a beautiful show today, sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers. Over the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. You go by and test drive yours. Tell them Charlton of Big C Sports sent you, as well as driving a fleet of Cadillac cars all across the universe. You can follow Big C Sports on 27 podcast applications from Google, Alexa, Spotify, Spreaker Podcast, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcast, Castbox Podcast, and Deezer Podcast, Podcast Addict, Podchaser. You can find us on GeoSavan Podcast out of London, England, as well as India and Africa. And don't forget Saudi Arabia. You can find us on Podtail, YouTube, Hubhopper, Stitcher Podcast, Radio Line, Repod Podcast, Luminary Podcast, Listen Notes, Podcast Wise, Podbay, Verbal Podcast, Podcast Odyssey, Podcast Republic, and the good positive one, the only one that used to scare me, and then it stopped, but now it's trying to scare me a little bit again. It's called allfeeds.ai. That means the robots are taking over, and give the robots some praise. They learn how, hopefully they don't learn how to turn us off. It's like somebody just want to turn you off sometime. Hopefully they don't learn that. You can also follow Big C Sports Podcast streaming OTT on 4 TV applications, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. And you can get that some praise. I got my new platform. I'm trying to figure it out. And sometimes it's trying to figure me out. Oh, I just had an epiphany. I think I won the lottery. UrgentAllFeeds.ai. I got the new platform, and as I start to talk, it starts to lead me at what to say. I don't want to script this show. This thing is thinking for me. I got to get used to that. But as I always say, I want to pay homage to our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced, helping veterans and their loved ones get help. If you know anybody going through issues, 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And when you do, you want to give us some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. We all need somebody to lean on. I know I do, and we all do. Really do appreciate our Veterans Crisis Hotline. I know I go against the current, them there currents. I'm going against them there currents. For sports bettors, I think Miami's favored by, they're the underdog at home by 2.5. They just won by 3 on the road at a mile-high altitude. Now they come back home to sea level, and they're an underdog at home by 2.5 to Denver. And now they're saying Tyler Hero has a bad hand, so he's not going to be there. So that leads me to believe that Denver will have the advantage tonight, because one of your sharpshooters is not going to play. And that's just, you put some hurt number on it, you play anyway. But that's just the way love goes. Sports betting, it comes with substantial risk. Be careful. They don't reimburse your money if you lose. If you feel you have a problem with gambling, with strangers, it's like meeting a stranger at a nightclub. You don't know anything about them, but they sure look good, and they make a lot of promises, and then you end up getting in bed with them. But you know sometimes you might lose. And with the gambling, when you get in bed with them, they build bigger casinos. If that makes sense to you. But, people do what they got to do. Just know it comes with substantial risk. They don't pay you back if you lose everything. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, let there be light. Open your cell phone or electronic devices and just say play Big C Sports. You will hear it and see it come up all over the world. Really do appreciate that. I always love to walk and talk by faith and not just by sight. I always produce the show. Number 2, I always direct the topics. And number 3, I broadcast all of the shows. Number 4, I do all of the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We could all use more laughter in our lives. I know I can. And then the commercials are done. The staff provided the storytelling, the play-by-play. Jimmy Butler for 3. You might hear that tonight in down there in them there swamps in Florida called South Beach. What a beautiful part of the city at South Beach. I thought they had one of the least attractive arenas, but on the outside of the arena, it used to be called FTX. Now they have it's a beautiful place. You can take your yacht to the game or your boat to the game. You can take your ski-doos to the game, and you can even swim. You can swim also, but you can also drive. But Miami has a beautiful location for their arena right there on the water. Really beautiful. It's just a really beautiful place. Then the show's uploaded to 27 multiple podcast platforms out of New York City. Never miss the show since creating Big C Sports with the crew. And the show a little bit different tonight because the NBA want to make sure I get some things in, but I may not go the whole distance. This new platform is looking like it's looking at me. Man, here I am talking about what scares me, artificial intelligence, and then I get a new platform and it's looking back at me. I want to run through my beautiful family legacy. I love giving praise to my beautiful great-grandmother, called her Mamo, just a beautiful, loving, kind woman. My beautiful great-grandfather, called him Pop, former military man and Negro League baseball player, known around his church buddies of making the best moonshine in the history of the universe. And for saying, boys, get out of that barn. My beautiful grandmother, called her Mud Deer, beautiful, loving, kind woman. She was a seer, could oftentimes look at a person, tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. Really do appreciate her. And she still helps me to this day. Then my beautiful grandfather, Hezekiah, another wonderful person. A seer could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, their present, and their future. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and then coaching all boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying rise and shine, the best person I ever met in my life. And in fact, at the church, everybody wanted Mrs. Curry's cooking. And at her restaurants, everybody wanted Mrs. Curry's cooking. And at home, everybody wanted Mama's cooking. She'd oftentimes say, son, how many plates have you had? I say, curry for 3. Because I had to eat 3 times to make sure my brothers didn't eat it all. If that makes sense to you, love my mama with all my heart, mind, and body, and soul. Always saying rise and shine, and always bringing people together. I love my mama very dearly. And then on my father's side, my beautiful grandfather, Albert Curry, former pastor. He had 2 churches in Oakland, built the 3rd church in Central California with his own hands. He also owned 2 gas stations in Oakland, one on Bancroft, the other on Foothill. Really do appreciate him. But I really appreciate most that he told me he owned 40 acres of land. Like the Emancipation Proclamation, where Frederick Douglass was working with the President Abraham Lincoln to craft the Emancipation Proclamation, where every free black person was supposed to get 40 acres of a mule. And unfortunately, when President Lincoln was assassinated, President Andrew Johnson came along and he vetoed the bill. And he gave the land back to the insurrectionists. That means he gave the land back to the people who were singing, hang Mike Pence. And Mike Pence I guess he announced he wants to run for president. He's going to run for president? I don't understand why he would run for president when he said he supported a man that lied. And you knew he was lying. But trust me this time. What did George Bush say? Fool me once, shame on you? He said, fool me twice? You're not gonna fool me again. But either that's it, man. Oh, he's gonna run for president. Lord have mercy. Well, everybody has a right chance. Dr. Cornel West's gonna run for president. I'm gonna give Dr. Cornel West my vote. I just like the way he's egalitarian, if that makes sense to you. Let's see how many votes that Dr. Cornel West will get. He's out of Northern California in Deer Hills. Really do appreciate him. And then my beautiful grandmother working side by side with my grandfather with the 2 churches in Oakland, building the 3rd church in Central California, helping running the 2 gas stations in Oakland. I was 8 years old walking through a hallway in Oakland, and she touched me on my forehead. She said, you seem like you're in a hurry. What are you trying to do? Run back and get some more cookies? I said, cookies, baby crap to what I'm doing. I'm trying to get my reparations. And I'll take some cookies too. You really appreciate her. Oh my goodness. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, the chief mechanic, always making sure that airplanes can fly high. So we could all stay safe at night, always saying develop your mind to its highest extent. In fact, my father's the first one to tell me about the SR-71, the Blackbird. It could get from L.A. to Washington, D.C. in 1 hour and 8 minutes. That's flying. They should use those same jet engines and put them on a 747 and see how fast it could get across the country. That'd be amazing. And then at the same time, my dad, he was in the Air Force. His roommate was the late Al Freeman Jr., and he played the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, one of my favorite movies, Malcolm X, that was written and produced by the great Spike Lee and acted by my favorite actor, the great Denzel Washington. And I love the part where Denzel said, and guess who's coming to dinner with Katharine Hepburn? He said, King Kong ain't got nothing on me. When they asked him, what's your name? That's what he told him. Some people said it was Sidney Poitier, but really do appreciate him. And then at the same time, always saying go forward. Love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my beautiful brother Todd, with that bombastic voice, sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. Always saying go forward. Love talking politics, and love also talking about the sports business. I remember one of our favorite movies outside of Malcolm X was Pulp Fiction. I love the part where Ben Rames told Bruce Willis, when before the big fight, he said, your butt goes down in the 5th round. He said, sit that. So Bruce Willis said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. And he told him what I think it doesn't matter what I think. Miami's at home. They're a 2.5-point underdog, and Hero's going to be out. So that takes away a weapon. It's all game that Denver can win. because if you're losing your firepower, and I still believe that they're trying to get Joker that championship, I'm going to lean. I have no dog in the fight. I'm going to lean at Denver going in and getting Game 3 because if Tyler Hero played, then I say Miami has that shooter's chance that they've had. But I know Steve Kerr was saying that you got to shut down Jamal Murray, and they put Jimmy Buckets on him. So we will see. Todd and I talked about all that stuff. And so one of the teams is going to say to the other, that stinging sensation you feeling? Well, that's just pride flipping with you. And so either Jamal Murray is going to tell Jimmy Buckets, or Jimmy Buckets is going to tell Jamal Murray, look, pride. So one of them is going to have a 2-1 lead tonight, and the team with the 2-1 lead is most likely going to win the NBA championship. Not because I say so, but because when you have a 2-1 lead and in a best of 7, you only have 4 games left. You got to win 2 out of a possible 4. If you come in there with a 1 game and you got 1 game win and you got a possible 4 games left, you got to win 3 out of 4, which is really very, very difficult. So tonight may as well be a Game 7 for both teams. Coach Malone said that Denver didn't play hard last time. They got to play hard, or they'll go down 2-1, and Miami's going to have a crazy crowd. It should be great theater in South Beach. Really do appreciate covering sports, and I want to give that some praise. I just love the sports business, but I don't know if it's going to get higher ratings than former Vice President Mike Pence announcing he's running for president. The guy who said that he knew his boss was telling a lie and he said nothing. And even when they were saying, hang Mike Pence, his boss wouldn't even call up the dogs. But he didn't certify, he did not uncertify the vote. He didn't stop the count. But after 4 years of saying he worked with a guy that lied, and now he's going to ask for your vote, he might become president of the LIV, if that makes sense to you. At the same time, really do appreciate that. Wow, then I love to talk with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. You know, she scored 6 goals on a soccer game, left-footed. She's right-footed. Man, what if we had LIV money back then? They could have given her $200 million. She got more future in her than Phil Mickelson, giving $200 million, and they say he's washed up. But maybe they were looking at the tape from 2010. It's like the dating websites that my friends and colleagues tell me about. You look on someone's dating website and they got a 20-year-old picture, and they're 40 and they got a 20-year-old picture up. They saw Phil Mickelson winning the Masters, and they said, "Damn, that guy's worth $200 million." But someone should have told him, "Yeah, that's a long time ago." Now they said, I guess they don't have buyer's remorse. Life is so funny. Daisy helped set up the very first interview for Big C Sports. It was back at Salem Media. It was the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network because of 2 black men in the crew. And unfortunately, some rumor has it, some good old boys said if two inbreeds can do it, we can bring in some insurrectionists. And they did. Shenanigans happened in the show anyway. Big C Sports is still striving, doing some work with the National Black Wall Street Project. Really do appreciate that. That's going to be really big, and I love being a part of the PR campaign for that as well. And so really, Daisy also would help set up in college. Coaches came to the West Coast to do work with Big C Sports. Love you with all my heart, mind, and body. So always pray Isaiah 54:17 that no weapon formed against you will prosper. And just be careful of people who are divisive. There are people who would try to divide black families all over the place. It's been that way since 1619. And just don't let that happen to you where you're the only one that looks like you. It's called a setup. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most beautiful son in the history of the universe. College student, very smart, erudite, a good man. You can be so many things. I always pray Isaiah 54:17 that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You know, at the same time, Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get trees. I used to always get newspapers that are made of trees, looking up stats on players and teams for Big C Sports. One day, Malcolm, he said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And the light bulb went off. Been Googling ever since, now on 27 podcast applications and 4 TV platforms. And then one day, Malcolm said, Dad, do you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. And that's before it was even on the air. And now it's on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. You can be anything you want, son. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always, always trust God, Isaiah 54:17. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, like my great-granddaddy coming out of that barn with his church buddies, always saying, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, you gotta believe, saying, let's get ready to rumble. I love saying, welcome to the show. As we nominated Big C Sports Podcast, I have no scripts, but I do have this new artificial intelligence platform. And it kind of scares me because it's looking at me. And sometimes I look at my platform and I say, my mind is telling me no, but my body's telling me yes. That's homage to the great Teddy Riley. Now my platform started saying, I don't see nothing wrong, no, with a little bump and grind. I don't see nothing wrong, but I'm going to say, turn it off! Like the great Teddy Riley. Oh, God, there was a song by George Clinton back in the day. It was called Atomic Bomb. Now, I wasn't expecting this one. Robotic Dog. Man, when you quit screaming and seeming, quit singing, not everybody can sing. Oh, Lord have mercy. I get the tickles today. Maybe it's getting ready for the basketball game. But I do want to touch on some things that are near and dear to my heart. I love paying homage to Reparations and the Associated Press, Janie Harr, who called me to ask my thoughts on reparations after she heard me speak at the Reparations Task Force meeting. It was March 29th, 2023. And she asked my thoughts on reparations. I said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then I said, we should honor President Abraham Lincoln, what he put in writing. We shouldn't take it away. We should honor it. I wonder what president is going to honor President Abraham Lincoln. And then also they mentioned Vice President Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden, California Governor Gavin Newsom, and he called Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, a small man. He's been sending people over in aerial planes. Flying people on airplanes into California for whatever reason. Oh, they build a wall, then they put people on airplanes. It doesn't make any sense. It's just funny to me. We're going to build that wall so people can't get in, but we're going to fly them into your state on airplanes. If you didn't see the irony of it, you can now. We're going to build that wall to keep the brown people out, but then we're going to fly them in on airplanes. Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyway, also on the task force, Senator Stephen Bradford, and also Chair Spokesman Camilla Moore in the article. I love talking about reparations because it's more important than who's going to win a game. And I love telling people, if you Google Survivor Today Act of 2017, our beautiful United States Justice Department. In 2017, the United States legislation that requires the State Department to report to Congress on steps that 47 countries in Europe have taken to compensate Holocaust survivors and their heirs for assets seized by Nazi Germany. Hitler was in power from 1933 to 1945. Slavery lasted 1619 to 1865, and then another 100 years of Jim Crow. And when you talk about reparations for descendants of chattel slavery, people go, oh, we know. That's a low. What did that good old boy say? He said, I don't see paying reparation for something that happened over 150 years ago. Isn't that something? We got to figure out how to do things better. I know sometimes we get drunk in love with games, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said he shouldn't have to pay. The country should not pay for what harms they did to black Americans from 1619 to 1865, and then 100 years of Jim Crow. But he has no opposition for the Survivors Today Act of 2017 that helped our Jewish brethren from acts that happened in the Holocaust. And Hitler was only in power in 1933 to 1945. No one complains about doing anything. But for black Americans, people tend to have a problem with it. But that's going to change. It's time for change, because United Nations Human Rights Chief calls for reparations to amend for slavery, which simply means to repair. And we gotta do that. You can get that some praise. Even if you're not decent, you can't draw the line and say that things are different between our Jewish brethren that we praise and descendants of chattel slavery that also I praise, and some people have an issue with that. But I want to get up on something. Juneteenth, the National Black Wall Street Project, is going to be on June 17th, 2023, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Southern California at First AME Church. That's put on by the Reverend Tony Pierce, President and CEO of the National Black Wall Street Project. Really look forward to that. I want to get into what's going on tonight in the NBA Finals, and I want to talk a little bit more about the LIV and the PGA that I talked about yesterday, because in the Stanley Cup, of course, that drops the puck again tomorrow on Friday in Florida. The Phoenix Suns are talking about getting rid of Chris Paul. They made the decision on the 12-time All-Star Chris Paul, who usually gets hurt in the playoffs. You can't really depend on him coming around that back nine, if that makes sense to you as a golf metaphor. But he still has they're giving him so much money. They're still going to he's going to get with a team, obviously. But you can't depend on Chris Paul anymore. You just can't. On record, you can't. If he goes to the Lakers got an old team right now. They got to get younger. LeBron James is great. Maybe another 2 more years he wants to play. But Chris Paul really doesn't help him when you get into the playoffs. He's always injured. He was injured when he played with Houston, injured when he played with Phoenix. But they'll make that choice. Tonight, Game 3 in beautiful Miami. The Denver Nuggets face the Heat. And it's the NBA Finals. Tip is already gone at 8:30 p.m. East Coast time on ABC at the Casa Center. And the sports books are wrong sometimes. They were wrong last time in Denver. They had Denver favored by 8. They lost by 3. That's an 11-point swing. And the Heat continued their reign Sunday, winning on the road. And they had a 111 to 108 win over the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets led by 8 points going into the fourth quarter. They lost by 3. So that's an 11-point swing in the fourth quarter alone. They could not put the game away. The center, Nikola Jokic, he tried to put the game on his back, dropped 41 points. At the same time, other players really didn't come up and play the way they should have. It's not the fact that they lost by 3, the fact they had an 8-point lead going into the fourth, and then Miami blitzed them, like the 72 Dolphins used to blitz in football. But for Miami guard Gabe Vincent, out of the 209 in Northern California, the Sacramento region, Stockton and Modesto region, and that good old boy, he gave the Heat a boost going. He was 4 of 6 on 3-pointers, so he scored the most points for Miami in Game 2. Can he bring that same kind of passion to Game 3? And he probably will. But when I look at some of the other players for the Denver Nuggets, forward Michael Porter Jr., his 3-pointers wasn't really falling for him. And you think about it, he's 3 for 17 behind the arc. If you're 3 for 17, maybe you should get a little closer to the basket. He was only 1 for 6 in Game 2. And remember, He averages 7 threes per game, and you can't count him all the time. The guy that makes what Coach Steve Kerr called the head of the snake is guard Jamal Murray. He's dynamic, and his slump hasn't stopped from finding open looks. If the Nuggets are going to win, and I think they still will, I think it's going to start with Jamal Murray, even though a lot of people think it's the Joker. The Joker doesn't play defense. He could score 50, but he still does not get back on defense. And the elbows in the hook, he may not get away with that in Miami, but he may. But he's not a good defensive player no matter what you do, and that's gonna stop them also from having a much more decided advantage. That's my thinking. In the wins, Miami went over 103.5 in 11 of their 13 games. In losses, they went under 103.5 in 5 of their 7 games. For the Miami fans, you can also find plus money odds on the over market against the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics. The Heat scored over 110 in 7 of their 8 wins. You can get that number. That's pretty impressive. The magic number for the Heat, if they get over 110, they're 7-8. What they just beat Denver by last time, 111-108. When they lost, they were not nearly as, they didn't even score 100 points when they lost. So for the Nuggets, Miami went 4 for 6 to start game 2, while Denver started 0 for 4, which is an anomaly. If you include the regular season, Denver averages 30 points in the first quarter, which was 3rd best in the NBA. In game 2, they scored just 23. In game 1, Denver won the race to 10 points and kept their foot on the pedal. And I expect them to come out aggressive after their loss in game 2. But they're on the road now. Miami's going to have that fan base behind them, and they have everything going for them. That makes you want to look at the money going on Denver. Doesn't make a lot of sense unless somebody knows something I don't know. If you just won a game on the road, and now you're coming back home to your own altitude against a team that does not play good defense, and you can blitz them at home, why is Miami the underdog? And I said because Tyler Herro's out. That's why. But to me, it's a game that Miami should win because they're at home. But the odds makers are saying they're an underdog, and I think because Herro's out, I think Denver can find a way to slip in and get a win. But the team, in my opinion, that can slip in and wreck the buffet at the Herro Club. At the Copacabana, the hottest spot north of Havana. At the Copa, you'll fall in love. Anyway, I guess I can sing. Sounds better in the shower. But I'm still interested. I don't bet, so sometimes it just goes above my head. But I know I've been pretty accurate in the games when it comes to picking these games. I still had Denver winning in 6. But that's before they lost game 2. I thought they'd win at home. They hadn't lost a game in 3 months at home. But Miami went in there and did something that the Lakers couldn't do. They went in there and beat them. They did something that the Phoenix Suns couldn't do. They went in there and won. So Miami has kind of a coming out party. Miami's won on the road everywhere. And now they're home. Pat Riley, 19 NBA Finals. As a player, as a coach, and a GM. They should be so ready to answer the challenge tonight at home. But will they? Again, the Joker might get 40 points. He might get 10 rebounds and 10 assists. But if he's getting 40 points, he's probably not getting 10 assists. So for Denver, they want to see the Joker get his 35 points. They want to see him get 12 rebounds and 10 assists. If he's going 40 points and getting 11 rebounds and 4 assists, they're not going to win again. But they're going to try to let him get his shot. But if he doesn't get away with the elbow, and the hook shot, that favors Miami. But the key, and Coach Kerr talked about it on a podcast, is Jamal Murray. If Jamal Murray would have hit that 3 at the end, they would have gone to overtime, and Denver would have probably won it. Jamal Murray didn't even get 20 points in the last game. So he's a bigger factor than the Joker. Some people might say, oh, I don't believe that. Jamal Murray plays defense. The Joker doesn't. He can't guard anybody. So tonight's game, anyone's game. But if you watch how well Miami plays in the first quarter, that shows you if they're on pace. If the first quarter is Denver 30, Miami 21, that's not good for Miami. If the first quarter ends with Miami 28, Denver 24, that looks good for Miami. So the first part, because Malone said they didn't play hard, so they're going to try to come out and put on the afterburners. That's what I'm seeing. That's what the media is hearing the coaches talk about. But either way, it should be a good game down in Miami. I'm looking for the best team to win. And without Hero, Denver might go in there and sneak that win. But it just seems everything's favoring Miami. So the odds makers, I don't understand Las Vegas this time. But they had an 8-point favorite for Denver last time at home. They lost by 3. They come on the road and they make it a 2.5-point favorite. How they know Tyler Hero was going to be hurt? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's just the way love goes. The Stanley Cup, obviously, let me give NBA some praise. Lord Stanley's Cup, got to get ready for that Big C Cup. And the Las Vegas Golden Knights, they lead that series 2-0, and they will play Game 3 in Florida. And that game, in my opinion, if the Golden Knights win it, it's over. If the Panthers have a chance, but the Golden Knights claim their second victory in their quest for Lord Stanley's Cup, and they lead down south 2-0. Game 3 is Friday, and they're looking for a chance. It would be both teams' first championship, but to me, the way Las Vegas has played at home, I don't see where Florida has a chance against them unless somebody gets hurt. I want to touch on something that is really national news. I've been talking about it since yesterday when everybody heard about the agreement with the PGA and the LIV golf tournament. But it's amazing how people are acting like it's okay to deal with blood money. I want to look at Augusta National and the inconsistencies of golf, because Augusta National is like the Super Bowl. It's like the NBA Finals for golf. It's the biggest golf event, no matter what other people like, U.S. Open, etc. But the Augusta National, that's their Super Bowl. But if you think about, golf has gotten it wrong a lot. How they planned on honoring Lee Elder, the first black golfer to compete in the Masters, because the white people didn't want him in there. We're in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Why is it most every time in society where someone wants to compete or be included, their opposition is white people? Why is that? Isn't this a Christian nation? Lee Elder was the first black golfer to compete in the Masters in 1975, and he was fought by white people. White Americans fought him because he wanted to play a game. So I leap forward to today. We've had the COVID pandemic. They've got to do that. And people don't think about what happened with Lee Elder. The Masters first played in 1934. It did not extend an invitation to a black competitor until 1975. 1975. We're in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And the club did not admit its first black member until 1990. It did not offer a membership to a woman until 2012. Think about this. That's the Masters. A tradition like no other. So after a year characterized by widespread protest over racial inequality, which is white racism. Racial inequality is a euphemism. Call it white racism. It wasn't black Americans fighting to keep white people out. Amid an ongoing reckoning of America over race and white racism. It wasn't black racism. It was white racism. It was white people. Not all. But none of those white golfers protested playing because they said black Americans couldn't play. Not one of them protested. They didn't sit out. After a year characterized by widespread protests over racial and white racism, Augusta National, they joined the conversation, and the club announced plans to honor Lee Elder, who in 1975 became the first black man to play in the Masters. On the 45th anniversary of the barrier-breaking appearance, Elder was recognized with an invitation to become an honorary starter alongside the sport's elder statesmen. Again, a lot of people didn't fight it. They just didn't. They let it go as, well, it's just the way things are. People aren't really ready for this yet. Let's all go to church and pray. But think about this. Elder was recognized with an invitation to become an honorary player. And when you think about how difficult it was for golf to do the right thing, people praised when they showed a moment of decency and allowed Elder to play the game that a lot of people love. But it was with a lot of pushback. A lot of it. "85-year-old Gary Player, 80-year-old Jack Nicklaus, Fred Ridley, Augusta National's chairman, said Elder 86 would join Player and Nicklaus for the ceremonial first tee shot next year, when he hopefully can be surrounded and celebrated by the tournament's customary complement of fans. When they did not allow black Americans to play, Gary Player played anyway. So did Jack Nicklaus. They played anyway. Had those men had the decency to protest and have the character of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., or even Rosa Parks, the Masters would have integrated a long time ago. And they would not celebrate the white racism that allowed them to be so bigoted. So many people, they praise it as a great place. I think in 2020, the defending champion, Tiger Woods, a 5-time winner whose 15 major championships make him the most conspicuous symbol of racial progress in the sport. Augusta National's membership, roughly 300, not a matter of public record though. The club's dues and rules are also kept secret. A tradition like none other. I think about it, the club has some histories and traditions and things that they follow, but it wasn't a good thing to be that way. It just wasn't. So what is all the talk about the Masters being a tradition like no other? And now you have the LIV and the PGA. They've been in court over money and doing the right thing. They were in court over it. There was a split between some of the great golfers. So now the merger of LIV Golf and the PGA, now they decide to get in bed together and not fight each other. The PGA Tour, the world's preeminent professional golf league, and LIV Golf, a Saudi Arabia-funded upstart whose emergence over the past year and a half has changed that sport. Now they're joining forces. Some people say it's complicated and incomplete. And a lot of golfers, they say they hate it, but they're not going to protest playing it. So what are the PGA Tour and LIV Golf? The PGA Tour holds tournaments nearly every weekend, mostly in the United States, but also in other countries in North America, Europe, and Asia. With prize pools worth millions of dollars, the tour has been at home to practically every male golfer you could name, from Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, Arnold Palmer, and so on. In its relationships, but is separate from the organizations that stage men's golf. The four majors, the Masters Tournament, the PGA Championship, the U.S. Open, and the British Open. And then the LPGA, which runs the women's tour separate. But LIV Golf began in late 2021 with the former PGA Tour player, the great Greg Norman, as its commissioner, and then billions of dollars in backing from the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is known as the Public Investment Fund. LIV lured several PGA Tour players, including major champions, the great Phil Mickelson, the great Brooks Koepka, with massive purses of money and guaranteed payouts that far surpassed what they could have earned in the established circuit of the PGA. The LIV promised a sharp break from golf's fussy traditionalism, starting with his own name, which when pronounced rhymes with give, but it's actually the Roman numeral for 54. Now the numbers for holes played in each tournament in LIV. LIV had music blaring at his events. They had loser dress codes and team competitions and tournaments that lasted 3 days instead of 4. In further, a particular appeal to potential players, while the PGA Tour tournaments, it cut golfers with the worst scores after 2 rounds. LIV did not cut. Remember Rich Strike when he won the Kentucky Derby last year, coming on that back 9? So the real relationship right now between the leagues is the PGA, with their history of racism and segregation, they tried to stand up to have some type of moral platform, but players who joined the LIV were forced to resign from the PGA Tour and its European equivalent, the DP World Tour, under the threat of suspension and fines. Now the LIV, they sued the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour, through litigation, realized they can't, it's a David and Goliath fight. The PGA Tour supporters and other critics of LIV said the venture was simply an attempt by the Saudi government to distract attention from its human rights record, while LIV supporters said the PGA Tour was a monopoly that used inappropriate strong-arm tactics to protect its position in big-time sports. It wasn't the LIV that prevented black golfers from golfing. It was the PGA that had the human rights violations. PGA did that to black golfers, not the LIV. So it seems that the PGA Tour and LIV announced on Tuesday that the creation of a new entity that would combine their assets as well as those of the DP World Tour to radically change golf's governance. The PGA Tour would remain a non-profit organization and would retain full control over how its tournaments are played. But all the PGA Tour's commercials, business rights such as extremely lucrative rights to televise its tournaments, will be owned by a new yet unnamed for-profit entity that is currently called NUCO. And NUCO will also own LIV as well as the commercial and business rights of the DP World Tour. What was all the stuff that we had with LIV in Saudi Arabia and blood money? I remember when they were dealing with segregation in the United States, there were the boycotting the buses in Selma, Alabama, and people wouldn't take the bus. Took over a year, but it changed things. And apartheid in South Africa, people would not buy products where companies were invested in South Africa. So it made things change. I wonder what LIV and all the PGA tried to stand behind the families that lost family members in 9/11, the attacks at 9/11 in New York City. If you're a commercial or an endorser, will people stand behind you and buy your products if you're standing behind blood money, allegedly, and allegedly the people that flew the planes in the 9/11 were from Saudi Arabia, allegedly. So what will a sponsor do when a company or a country sponsored the good old boys that brought down the buildings allegedly. Is America going to sit by and buy the products of those sponsors now? Will they? Or will they say, well, that was just 2001, that's a long time ago. Do you want to be the company that puts your product behind this golf tournament with LIV and PGA, knowing that we have 9/11 ceremonies every September 11th? We'll have one this year, September 11th. How does golf stand juxtapose that when you have whatever or whoever those sponsors will be go buy the product with a golf affiliation with the country that brought down our buildings 9/11, and the PGA and LIV are in bed together? Not only are they in bed together, they're making babies. You got to think about that from you have Good Old Boys. The policy board is made up of 5 independent directors, including Ed Hillary. Jimmy Dunn also helped to negotiate the deal. The board also includes 5 players: Patrick Cantley, Charles Hoffman, Peter Montari, Roy McIlroy, Webb Simpson. Jay Monahan, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, said Tuesday that there was only a framework agreement and not a definitive agreement, with many details still to be decided. The definitive agreement needs a vote before it can go forward. So you're telling the PGA that has openly discriminated against black Americans until they allowed Lee Elder to play. They didn't have a first black member until 1990 and a first woman until 2012. Now that same PGA, they're in bed with the Saudi-backed golf tournament that allegedly brought down buildings in America, the biggest attack in the history of this land. And now they're going to trot their white golfers out there with their sponsorship, saying, buy our products, we support Saudi Arabia. How are they going to pull that off? There were so many people saying, I don't want to see Black Lives Matter at the end of an end zone. I don't want to see end racism. I don't want to talk about reparations for black Americans. But this blood money's okay. It's just blood. The blood comes out in the wash of all this money. So how will fans that were perturbed about Colin Kaepernick taking a knee because he was trying to bring in attention to police brutality on black kids? Oh, I can't stand why he took a knee. What do you mean police brutality? They don't hurt my kids. And people said they turned off football because a black man took a knee, saying, please stop hurting black kids, in agreement with the Kerner Commission. Even if you're the dumbest person in America, you can Google the Kerner Commission and see what it said. And when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, he had all of our white TV brethren on TV. Oh, I don't understand why you're doing that. He's anti-American. Colin Kaepernick didn't bring down those buildings in New York City. Allegedly, they came from Saudi Arabia. And now these white golfers, because the money's big enough, they're willing to go to bed with him. How many white people are going to say, I'm going to turn my back on these white golfers who are taking that blood money? Colin Kaepernick says, stop killing black kids. People said, oh, I'm not watching football anymore. He's taking a knee. He's disrespecting the flag. These white guys taking all this money, tens of millions of dollars. How many white newscasters and sponsors and players are going to pull out because they're not going to take this blood money? You know how many are going to take it and pull out? You know how many are going to complain about it and protest it? Maybe one. The rest are going to take the money and fall in line. The LIV will continue to exist as a separate golf league, and the PGA will join and get in the bed with them because the money's big, and money talks, and patriotism walks. So all the people that hated Colin Kaepernick, I'll not tolerate him taking a knee to protest brutality against black Americans. But the biggest attack we've ever had on American soil, allegedly, came from Saudi Arabia. That's where those pilots are from. And now you have these white boys getting in bed with them. In the land of the free, in the home of the brave. Because the money's too big to turn away. I'll not tolerate anyone not standing for the American flag. But you can knock down our buildings and we'll get in bed with you if the money's good enough. And they're white. Tiger Woods was chastised for what was going on in his marriage, that most marriages in the country have anyway. People sleeping around with different people. They chastised Tiger Woods for it. Tiger Woods said no to the LIV. He turned down $800 million. Black man. Those white guys didn't turn it down. But how many of those white guys were chastised for sleeping around on their wives? None of them. Birds of a feather flock together. But the white media turned on the black man, Tiger Woods, who refused to sign blood money with LIV Golf. But those white guys did. They went to bed with him. And now they're making babies. Now what will the white media do? Because they turned on Colin Kaepernick for saying stop killing black kids. And now you have allegedly a country that sponsored the people who knocked down our buildings in New York City, 9/11. You have white guy after white guy laying down going to bed with them. And you know what people are going to do? On golf day? Get in the hole! Get in the hole! They're not going to turn off golf. Because the hypocrisy of what's been going on in this country since 1619. You can give that some praise. You only got to hear that on Big C Sports Podcast. That's why we deserve reparations. I'm going to talk more about this because it's too big not to. Well, that's my story and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you, there's never ever an excuse for racism or taking blood money or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and call 911. Because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage of their own. My mama told me that. Also, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because some mothers and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. Call Uber, call Lyft, call a cab. Don't do it. The life you save may be your own. That's just my story and I'm sticking with it. Well, as I always tell you, back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Bodini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? All of it say I'm something pretty. I can't possibly be beat because all the Big C burgers make me laugh about me. Well, as I always tell you on every Big C Sports show, I thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super, fantastic day. Reparations now, reparations forever. In the words of the great President Abraham Lincoln, reparations now, reparations forever. In the words of the great President Abraham Lincoln, reparations now, reparations forever. Have a super, fantastic day.